Welcome. My name is Mr. Hanson, and thank you for watching this video. What we are working on right now is remediating our Unit 8 so that we can take notes and learn how to do the problems from Unit 8. And then we'll have a chance to practice the problems on the next page so that eventually we can take a test that looks just like both of these documents right here. So if you haven't already, if you can make sure that in addition to this video playing, that you have this remediation document open in ClassKick. So we should have it where you have the remediation document open on ClassKick, and then you can do side by side with the screen so that the video is playing kind of in this corner over here. If you need help with it, you can ask your algebra teacher, and he or she should be able to help you out with that. All right. So with our document open, let's make sure that we are on the remediation document, page 5, and your job is to take notes so you can get the practice going on the next page. So here we go. So they're asking us to simplify this one here. So what I'm going to start doing is, since I see that I have a negative exponent, I'm going to set this equal to, and I'm going to put a fraction bar on the other side over here. And I'm just going to try to work with this each number one at a time. So the first thing I'm seeing here is a 9 squared. So this can be calculated either using a calculator or your brain. So remember that 9 squared, you can put in the calculator just like this. Remember 9 squared is not, 3 squared is not 3 times 2, but it's 3 times 3, right? So that's where that 9 comes from. So you can go ahead and write the number 9 in the numerator of the fraction. Okay, the next thing I'm going to look at is with these exponents right here. If it's a positive exponent, it's going to stay on that part of the fraction. That's why x to the 5 stays. If it's a negative exponent, then I like to talk about that as being an unhappy exponent. So it's going to move to the opposite part of the fraction as a positive exponent. And that's why that y to the 2 goes in the denominator. Now for z to the 0, we know that anything to the 0 power automatically equals 1. So we could write a times 1 like this if we wanted to, but multiplying by 1 doesn't do anything to this fraction at all. So that's why your algebra teacher probably, when they taught you working with 0 exponents, they probably just taught you that z to the 0 or anything to 0 just makes nothing, and therefore to write nothing on the next fraction right there. And so that's why this is my final answer for problem number 1. All right, so let's go ahead to problem number 2 together. So for problem number 2, a lot going on here. I'm going to try to focus in on combining common things appropriately here. So this 2 to the 3rd times 3 is the first thing that I'm going to combine. So I can go to my calculator. I can calculate 2 to the power of 3 multiplied by 3. Okay, so that 24 is the first number that I'm getting. So I'm going to bring that down. Okay, now it's time to combine the common variables here. So if I have a squared and a to the 4th, since I have 2 bases of a's right here, I'm going to add those exponents. That's why it's a to the 6th power for me. Now it's time to circle those b's. Again, adding the b exponents right there, that's going to be b to the 5th power. Ooh, and look at this. We actually, there's actually an a to the negative 2 also that we didn't account for. So you know what, we should probably go backwards. And let's talk about working with those a's instead. So if you can do a little erasing, if you want to pause, feel free. We need to also combine the a squared and the a to the 4th with a to the negative 2. So adding all of those up, that's going to be 2 plus 4 minus 2. That's going to be a to the positive 2. Okay. See, it's a good thing that we're circling and we're keeping track of our variables so we know what we're using, what we're not using. And then as we discussed before, the b's is going to add to b to the positive 5th power. And notice how in my original problem, I have nothing else that's circled. That means I've accounted for everything. And therefore, I got my final answer written right over there. Number 3 is next. So whenever I'm simplifying a fraction, I'm going to automatically put an equal sign, and then I'm going to put a fraction bar on the other side. Okay, so for me, I'm seeing a 20 divided by 4. So this is just like what we did in middle school, just to divide those two numbers up. There you go, and that's a 5. So since it's a 5, I'm just going to put that number in the numerator. It's really the same thing as 5 over 1, but I'm just going to leave it as a plain old 5, just like this. All right, so now I'm going to simplify my x's. And so you can think about this as x to the 7 over x to the 5. You have 7 on top, 5 on the bottom. Each pair cancels out. How much do you have left over is x to the 2. Another way that students like to do this is just to simply subtract the exponents. 7 minus 5 is where you can get x to the 2 from also. So it's your choice how you want to do that. Okay, and now y to the 2 and y to the 4th. My preferred way to do this one is to think about it canceling. I've got 2y's in the numerator, 4y's in the denominator. After canceling, I'm going to be left with 2y's in the denominator. Another way that one could think about this is to think about if it's 2 minus 4, you could write it out as y to the negative 2, right? But then negative exponents need to go to the opposite part of the fraction as a positive exponent. And so that's why it's going to be y to the positive 2 on the bottom also. So multiple ways to be able to get this one there. There's my final answer there. Okay, let's talk about number 4. So this one, it looks like we have an exponent of 2 on the outside. We're going to do a lot of distributing here. We're going to distribute this exponent of 2 to the 6, to the a to the 4th, to the c to the 2. And we're not done there. We're also going to distribute to the denominator, to the b to the 0, and then to the d to the 6. Okay, so let's erase and let's go backwards and let's take our time and talk a little bit about what this is going to look like. Okay. So I'm going to put I'm going to set this equal to, I'm going to put a fraction bar here. If you want to pick one color and draw an arrow from the exponent to the 6, again, it's not 6 times 2, but it's 6 to the 2 power. I would suggest writing it out like that if I were you. Okay, now I'm going to distribute my exponent to this a to the 4th, and since I only have one base of a, that means I need to multiply these two numbers right here, or the two exponents right there. That's why I got a to the 8th power. Okay, now I'm distributing the exponent to c to the 2. Again, after multiplying those exponents, that's c to the 4th. Okay, now it's time to distribute to the denominator. So distributing the exponent to b to the 0. So again, we're multiplying. 0 times 2 is going to be b to the 0. So I could write b to the 0, or remember b to the 0 just cancels and makes nothing, so I'm just going to write nothing in red. And finally, let's distribute our exponent to d to the 6th. So multiplying those two exponents, that's going to be d to the 12th. If you get to this step, then awesome. If you can go to the calculator and calculate 6 to the 2 power, oops, did not want to do that. 6 to the 2 power, the calculator, remember it's not 6 times 2, but it's 6 to the 2 power, that's going to be a 36. If you get that, that's even better also. All right, last one. So let's read this one. I'll let you read this one to yourself, and I'll read it quietly also. Okay. All right, so for these types of problems, let's write down the provided formula. So we have end amount equals the principal or the starting amount times the quantity of 1. So I do plus or minus depending upon the type of problem it's going to be. The R is going to stand for rate, and that's going to be all to the power of t, which is going to be the time. Okay, so they're never going to give us the ending amount and all that. You'll learn about that next year. For P, or the principal amount, the amount that we start with is $100. So let's substitute that in for P. Okay, it's always going to be a parentheses with a 1. In terms of the plus or the minus, I'm seeing that we're talking about interest. So if we're ever talking about the word interest, we're earning money. That's why I'm going to put a plus right there. Okay, the R, it's going to be the rate. So in order to get this number, we need, since it's a percent, we always need to divide it by 100. So it's going to be 4 divided by 100. We can calculate that with our calculator. And there it is. We can write that down. Okay, so let's substitute that in for R. Okay, and then that's going to be to the power of, and then our T is going to be the time. Looks like we're talking about 18 years old, so 18 years is what we're looking at in terms of the time. Okay. So the next thing I need to do is just evaluate the value of this expression in the calculator. So the exponent button is going to be right over here for your yellow calculators. If your teacher uses the yellow calculators, remember this is the exponent button that you'll use in your yellow calculators. Okay. Okay, so there you go. So I'm going to start writing out this number here. And as I'm writing out this number here, the thing we want to think about here is that we're talking about money, right? So as we're rounding, we want to round to the nearest penny or to the nearest hundredth place. So because this 8 has a 1 next to it, this 1 is going to tell me that this 8 needs to stay as an 8 and not round it up to a 9. Okay, and then let's put units at the beginning here. We're talking about dollars, so you can put the dollars right there. So this is $202.58. All right, so if you need to rewind and get any of the notes that we talked about here, feel free. Otherwise, your next job is to scroll ahead to page 6, use the notes that we did on page 5 to help yourself go back and forth to complete these problems successfully. And then your algebra teacher should be instructing you what to do next after that. Thanks for watching. Nice talking with you. Bye-bye.